I think if you don't want this movie and you're not going to play Lord of the Rings Gollum, I think it's like embarrassing to call yourself a Lord of the Rings fan.
Taking shots at me already.
I mean,
it doesn't.
Gollum's the best Lord of the Rings character.
It isn't. There's so many better options, Chase. You're just doing this to be antagonizing.
Well, Luke, if there is better options,
yeah.
What would I have liked to see?
Gollum?
Aragorn, Gandalf,
Who's
Legolas.
That? Who are these characters? Who are these like minor characters that were in like 2 pages of the book?
The Emperor has foreseen a new threat rising against him. The Podwans Podcast.
How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Podwans Podcast. I'm your host, Char, joined by my co-host, Luke.
What's up?
Hereth Productions.
What's going on, everybody?
And our new member of the Podwans Podcast. Not really new, but a new co-host for us. Chase, I forwarded into the block.
How are you doing?
Damn.
Hey, Chase, are you dying?
Are you getting
Are they
arrested?
after you?
Are they,
Are they
did they get you after
Good
they got
start to our
me?
show.
Did Chase write a bad question for trivia?
No, none of that happened.
Oh, that's a throwback.
Chase has been our co-host for
I wrote
about
a
30
good question and
seconds
people were
before
too
we get
scared to
arrested.
answer.
So the first topic of today, obviously, is the one that's been sparking up everywhere. It's announced that Peter Jackson will be directing a new Lord of the Rings movie that'll be releasing in 2026. Luke, you're the strongest Lord of the Rings fan and Tolkien fan between all of us.
Uh-huh.
So, I mean, A, how excited are you? And B, where do you think this movie's going to take place in the timeline?
It doesn't give me warm and fuzzies because I love Andy Serkis, don't get me wrong. I love him as a director. I love him as an actor. But why? Why Gollum? That's my question.
The Lord of the Rings,
Because the video game was a
that
success.
video game was so amazing, and I can't believe you won't play it.
I hate you.
Yeah, the
much.
greatest
They're
game of
giving
all
the
time,
fans
the game of
what
the
they
year.
want.
Oh my god.
I think if you don't want this movie and you're not going to play Lord of the Rings Gollum, I think it's like embarrassing to call yourself a Lord of the Rings fan.
Taking shots at me already.
I mean,
it doesn't.
Gollum's the best Lord of the Rings character.
It isn't. There's so many better options, Chase. You're just doing this to be antagonizing.
Well, Luke, if there is better options, name them.
What would I have
one
liked to
character
see?
better than Gollum?
No. Don't think about what you
Aragorn,
know.
Gandalf,
Who's
Legolas.
that? Who are these characters? Who are these like minor characters that were in like 2 pages of the book?
Oh my god!
I hate you so much. Okay, so like here's my real like thoughts about it. Like, cool. I love the fact that we're getting Peter Jackson back. Some fans aren't so. They're kind of wishy-washy because of the way the Hobbit movies were received. But they will always give him grace because of what he did for Lord of the Rings. However, there are actually some Tolkien fans that aren't big fans of Peter. It is famously known that Christopher Tolkien, J.R.R. Tolkien's son, was quoted as saying his father would have absolutely hated those films. So there are fans that are that way. And then there's me. I'm like, cool, we're getting new content, but I just don't. Maybe I'll be wrong. The other thing is, for Hunt of Gollum is going to be basically the story of Aragorn, Gandalf meeting up before the Fellowship, and they try to capture Gollum because Bilbo talked to him, told Gandalf all these things in The Hobbit, and now it's a race to find Gollum to figure out what
is
he knows.
going to play these characters. Are they going to use the original cast or?
So you could still use Ian McKellen.
You can use Ian McKellen, but there's no way that they can bring back
like
Viggo.
Bloom is so much older now.
Yeah. All three of them. So like they're gonna have to like the only person like honestly, if they're gonna keep it within the universe of like the movies and stuff, Thranduil Lee Pace does not age.
Yeah,
he looks just the same way he did as Thranduil, going on about 10 years now. Like he can play Thranduil, and he does show up. If they're gonna keep that, I hope they keep the consistency of that. It will feel weird with a young Aragorn. I think they really have to be careful with that casting because Aragorn is such a beloved character. Gandalf, Ian McKellen will play him until he dies because let's be real here, lore-wise, he's old anyway.
Like, also, I saw this on TikTok. You can correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't that like whole Hunt for Gollum just like a paragraph in Fellowship of the Ring where it's like,
Yeah.
oh, this is basically what happened. Like this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened.
Well, no,
Anyway,
well, it's in the appendices. Of Return of the King. It's in the appendices. They touch upon it in Fellowship, because it's talked about in the Council of Elrond, but it's more heavily like talked about in Unfinished Tales and the appendices of Return of the King.
so there is more source
Um,
material than just a paragraph.
yeah, there is. It's you kind of have to dig for it, and that's kind of the thing about the Tolkien fandom is that they know the lore. If you know the lore, it's kind of like hoo-ha. I feel like it's hard to enjoy anything if you have that fandom, like you uber fan or just like really passionate about that and
I
not
wonder what
take
that's
it for
like.
what it is.
I wonder
No,
what that's like.
literally.
Yeah, I mean, it makes me
Literally.
wonder. Like, it's been so long. It's been like, even if we don't count the Hobbit movies, it's been what, 20 years since Return of the King.
25 years.
Um,
20. No, it was 20 years
last year.
last year. Yeah,
And
20
so I
years
think a
last.
lot of the people who
Mhm.
grew up with the Lord of the Rings trilogy, I think we're gonna I could see us having a prequel effect, like maybe the people versus Peter Jackson. Like, if he has his creative liberties with this, like, and it's not well received, and it's like the Hobbit movies weren't that far off from Lord of the Rings, and I think
Yes.
that hype from Lord of the Rings was still a little bit there because those were like the 2010s, like late 2000s, early 2010s.
The last one came out in
Yeah,
2013.
and I didn't
No,
I didn't like the
2014, sorry.
Hobbit movies. Like, the first one was okay, and they're just not. I don't think they're as fun as the original Lord of the Rings trilogy. So, like, I think Peter Jackson has shown us he can hit and he can miss. And
Yeah.
if is this a new movie or is this a new trilogy?
It's a new movie with hopes that they can do more
Okay.
spin-offs. I don't think there's going to be another trilogy. PJ is older than what he was when
Right.
he first started the trilogy, and doing 3 straight movies in a row like they did for the Lord of the
Yeah.
Rings and the Hobbit. He's come out and said like he said it after he did Lord of the Rings. The only reason why he did the Hobbit movies was because the studio wanted it to be a trilogy, and Guillermo del Toro said, "I don't want to do 3 movies. It should only be 2."
I agree.
And like that's the biggest reason why,
Mhm.
and that's the biggest reason for PJ coming back in the first place for The Hobbit. He was never supposed to direct those movies. He was only a producer on that. So it just depends. I think what PJ has done for the Lord of the Rings community cannot go unstated. Like, he made it cool to like
Yeah.
Tolkien, and like it's an avenue that hasn't been really explored after The Hobbit. So like that's why Rings of Power, like, here's the thing, guys. No matter what, and this is about fandoms in general, like, you're not gonna absolutely love it. There's gonna be people that see it for the first time and that's their thing. And being kind of the more Tolkien person in here, like, I don't really like when I saw that, I was like, okay, I should probably wait until I see an actual synopsis, see something on screen, doing all of that. But I think giving Andy Serkis the reins, especially if it's a Gollum character, he'll know how to
Yeah,
do those.
because isn't Percy Jackson not directing it? It's basically
He's
it's pretty
produced
much it's producing it. Andy Serkis is directing it. This is his first directorial debut since Venom
Andy Serkis is
2.
directing it. Okay.
No, Hobbit. He was a second stage director on Hobbit, on Desolation of Smaug, and Battle of the Five Armies. And he helped a little bit in Return of the King, I think, but not
Yeah,
much.
and then he directed. I mean, I know besides that, like non Lord of the Rings related, he did Venom: Let There Be Carnage.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so he does have directing chops, and also with his experience on the Planet of the Apes movies and Lord of the Rings, and like him as an actor lately, I feel like it's in the best
Star
hands you
Wars.
can put it in.
Okay,
And big-
okay, totally derailing because you just brought up Planet of the Apes. I have a question.
Yeah.
Who watches these Planet of the Apes movies?
I don't.
I don't know, but like they're planning on making it a 9-film franchise.
I watched
That would make
Dawn.
it
I haven't
It's
watched.
like Fast and Furious.
I haven't watched the final one, but I've watched the first one and Dawn.
I know people who watch Fast and the Furious. Like, Fast and the Furious has its audience. I have never met a single person that watches Planet of the Apes. And I'm like, I've never met someone that's like, oh, what are you going to do today? Like, oh, I'm going to the movies. What are you going to go see? The new Planet of the Apes movie. Like, I've never heard anyone say that. Like, you talk to people like any movie, like even obscure movies, like, oh yeah, I'm going to see this weird movie. Cool. Who sees these movies? Because they've made like 30 of them now. And I'm
Yeah,
just
they
like,
have over
Yeah.
over the last 40
Kingdom,
years.
Rise,
been-
War.
oh,
But
they're
the-
also the longest titles, like the Kingdom of the Palace of the Planet of the Apes. And I'm
Yeah.
just like,
Yeah, it's like
I mean, I wasn't really invested in the franchise. I was more invested as like in Matt Reeves for those like that 3 movies. I still need to watch the third one, but it's like because I think Matt Reeves is just an interesting director. So that was more of my draw than the
Pod
franchise.
Ones control the Planet of the Apes.
no,
Good
we
title.
don't. No.
We run this
do it
world.
the
themselves.
Pod Ones
Well, like,
watch
you
of
also-
the Planet of the Apes.
You also have to remember that Matt Damon did
Matt Damon.
did a Planet of the Apes like in the early to mid 2000s. Do you not remember that, Chase?
No.
Yeah, I'm almost positive Matt Damon was in.
Oh, so
Planet of
Lucas,
the Apes.
so Luke, you've seen
It wasn't
Planet
Mark
of the Apes.
Wahlberg.
Wahlberg. It was
Mark
Wahlberg.
Wahlberg sounds more like Planet of the Apes. I feel like if Matt Damon did it, like I would.
Wasn't
know
that Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes? Am I
Tim
miscorrecting?
Burton did.
Remember-
I don't believe Tim Burton did a Planet of the Apes. Maybe
Hold
I'm
on.
wrong.
I'm looking at this. Hold on, 9 years ago.
Like we're talking Tim Burton from like Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yeah, Nightmare Before Christmas, like Batman, Beetlejuice. I feel like if there was
Beetlejuice?
a Tim Burton,
Yeah.
Danny.
It is. It's Tim Burton. I remember that. It was the 2001 Planet of the Apes. I am not misremembering that.
And it's Matt. Oh, it is Wahlberg. Yeah, it's Wahlberg. Yeah, Matt Wahlberg. Yeah, or Mark
It's
Wahlberg.
It's Tim Burton.
Marky
Yeah,
Mark.
it was Tim Burton. Yeah, it was Tim. You're right. It was Tim Burton. That's hilarious. That's so funny.
Does Danny Elfman do the score?
And guess what, Chase? I will tickle your fancy. Danny Elfman does do the score.
Insane. Insane. What?
Can we just watch that?
Wait,
Can we just watch
no.
that
Like
one
something
thing?
happened. Something happened. Like in 2012, something happened. Like we got on the timeline where Danny Elfman and Tim Burton made a Planet of the Apes movie, and then we got like 30 spinoffs without them. I don't know. Those are played to test projectors to empty theaters. That's my conspiracy. I would say let's do a watch along of every Planet of the Apes, but I actually don't have any interest in the Planet of the Apes.
Factual. That's actually factual.
Neither do I. It does not intrigue me at all.
Wait, but without Planet of the Apes, we wouldn't get the Batman. So it was worth it.
I don't think those two are related.
They are.
Wait, what?
How
Wait,
are they
what?
related? Tim Burton
No.
did like the
No.
two
No,
original
no,
Batmans.
No, I'm talking about the Matt Reeves, the Batman, the Robert Pattinson, the Batman. So when he was shooting
no. You're
Planet of
yeah,
the
but-
Apes, it was for
But Matt
WB, and
was
he went to
he-
WB and said, "Hey, I want to do a Batman movie," and that was supposed to be the Ben Affleck Batman, and they're like,
Oh.
And
That's
they
how you
said,
guys
we
watch
saw
the
what
Flash."
you did with Planet of the Apes.
"And we want that." Yes,
That's all.
Well,
I don't.
well,
believe
here's
this.
the
This is fake.
no.
No, look it
Well,
up. Look it up.
So-
I'm in the wrong
so here-
timeline.
So here's the question though. Like, how does that relate to Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes, to Matt Reeves, to Batman?
Because-
you had me, because you said the Batman and then Planet of the Apes, and I was thinking Tim Burton. I was like, bro, those are switched.
Like
No,
I,
I think-
I know the timeline of like Saddam Hussein causing 50 Shades of Grey, but like
Jesus,
I know that
Christ.
one. I know
No,
that one
that's
too.
Osama bin Laden, not Saddam Hussein. Osama
no, if
bin
you go
Laden.
back
is-
further enough, it
9/11.
comes to Saddam Hussein. But
Does it really? I
Yeah.
thought it was just 9/11 caused
Luke,
that lady.
yeah.
to
Luke
write all
does
those
not
things.
love the lore.
yeah, you
I-
didn't go deep enough in the lore.
I
He's a
wasn't
big Tolkien
going too
fan.
deep. in
God bless
50 Shades.
Saddam
Anyway,
Hussein and Osama
Well,
bin Laden
since we
for
got
50
so
Shades of Grey.
sidetracked, and
Oh my
speaking of
God.
lore,
Wow,
with
holy
this new Lord of the
shit.
Rings movie, Luke, I'm sure all of you are aware that the movies they use the lore as a foundation, not verbatim, like
Yeah.
George R. R. Martin stuff. So
Well, even George R. R. Martin's is stretched as well.
ever so slightly, but everything that happens is like
JJ has entered the
Verbatim.
chat.
the story.
Yeah, I don't
everything.
know. I don't know. I don't think I would agree with that at all. Like Lady Stoneheart, where the fuck was she? Like what?
But that's just adaptation things. I mean, like
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
thing. Like, they're not the same. Like you can't just say George R. R. Martin. Like he's like D&D fucking went away from his story. Like that's like a big
Okay,
proponent.
well, here.
Anyway, I know what
Okay,
you're trying
other
to say.
than Lady Stoneheart, what other thing changed? Because Lord of the
Well-
Rings, Bombadil, Old Man Willow, you have the whole story of
Don't get me started on that fucking Tom Bombadil, bro. We've already had this conversation. The guy is
but it's a
is
it's
so
a huge
infuriating.
part of the book, you know.
shout out
But
to
like they
Don
made,
Marshall's episode.
I mean, yeah, go back and watch that because I really, really enjoyed that. That's been my favorite episode of this whole thing. But anyway, so like, I get what you're saying, Char. Like, when are they going to be okay? Like, why can't fans just deal with the changes? It's because they're perfectionists and they want to see these things on screen. Me in particular, I do not want to see Old Man Willow and Tom Bombadil. What are you going to add to that? Fellowship is already the second longest of the trilogy. Like, we're going to just add Tom Bombadil and he's crazy, stupid, weird. Can you imagine? The only way I want Tom Bombadil is if Matthew Berry does it as Laszlo. That's literally the only person that I would.
I also just imagine them like retroactively continuing and being like, "Hey, here's a movie about Tom Bombadil. He was around during Fellowship of the Ring, but you did not see him the entire movie, but he was kind of there."
I would rather run myself into a car than do that.
You know, I think is interesting, kind of like talking about adaptations, is I feel like that narrative has like permeated through like fandom discussion of like, because it doesn't match up close enough to a one-to-one recreation of the book, like it's bad.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite examples is the book Children of Men and its movie, which are radically different. Like there are character names that are same and the settings are the same, but like the plot and how they interact is wildly different, and both are very good. The author has said they loved the movie even though it's nothing like it. Fight Club, the author of Fight Club says like the movie's so much better than my book. And it's like it's better than my book and it's different. And I think
we also have the film bro answer, The Shining.
Yeah, wildly different from the book, and it's considered like a cinema classic. And so it's just when I see stuff like that, I know it's like way out of left field for us, but like the Nicholas Sparks movies are often like wildly different from the books. Like the Notebook.
Yeah.
The Notebook is very different in the movie than it is in the book. Like,
is Fault in Our Stars different?
I've never read nor seen Fault in Our Stars, so I can't say to that. That's John Green. So I haven't.
Oh, is it John? Oh, it's John Green. Okay.
Nicholas Sparks'
John Green.
Notebook, Walk to Remember, Dear John, the Southern Middle America love stories.
If you want to know more about the lore of Chase, knowing Nicholas Sparks, you'll have to join our Patreon.
He's not the best author. There's problematic things about him, but I've read my fair share of Nicholas Sparks books.
That a boy.
Notebook is a great book, and it's an even better movie.
Yep.
You know what? Nicholas Sparks is a pretty cool name. You know what I should change my name to? I'm going to change my name to Bob Lightning, and I'm going to write a bunch of books.
That'd be sick.
Bob Lightning.
I like that.
Badass.
Look at me, Jim Thunder.
I don't think it'll ever change.
That sounds like a baseball name. Not gonna lie.
Jim Thunder.
But like,
anyway,
even on I'm not trying to derail your point of adaptations, but I've also heard it in like, especially with like superhero movies and comic book adaptations, where it's like people want like the comic book panels to be like storyboards almost, and it's like, guys, when it comes to adaptations, to me, all that matters is, can you take the essence of the story and what makes that story special and put it on screen? I don't need it to be one-to-one. Like, if you can make a change and make it better, do it.
Yeah.
There's so many adaptations like what Chase said, where you change something and it works for the better of the story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think like, especially when you're looking at movies, like you're looking at 90 to 180 minutes max. Like you don't have all the time in the world to do that. And I think we've seen with the rise of like TV shows and book adaptations of TV shows, you know, that they're getting more opportunities to get more into the books. You know, say what you will about Game of Thrones. It was a cultural phenomenon. It put Game of Thrones on the map. Like it's no longer a Song of Ice and Fire. It's a Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
And again, say what you will about, wherever you fell off with that TV show. Like I fell off in season 4 and other people fell off earlier or later. It has a spin-off series that's doing incredibly well, and they're getting ready to do more spin-off series. Like it worked. That adaptation worked. Whether you like it or not doesn't matter. It worked.
No, agreed.
There's so many pieces of media where like the adaptation was radically different, and it was better because it was different. Because like I think it's one of those things of like people get in this mindset, and maybe I'm wrong, but I think people get in the mindset of like, I love the book. Even if it's not perfect, I still love it. And when there is an adaptation, you forget that there are flaws in that book, and that new visual media may be attempting to work on those flaws. Okay, like I've read tons of books where like I liked it, or I liked this part of it, I like this half of it, I like this third of it, but then there's like sections I don't like Light of the Jedi. The first half of that book is some of my favorite Star Wars writing. The second half, kind of okay. Like not bad, but like that first half is incredible. And it's like
the whole Hetzal.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Countdown.
It's amazing. The countdown to the Hetzal incident is incredible. It is some of my favorite Star Wars writing. If we ever got a Light of the Jedi movie, like I hope they focus more on that than they do the other half. I doubt we will, but that's one of those things of like I think it's maybe like forgetting that not everything in the book is as great as you remember.
Oh,
Yeah, they're gonna have time for the movie to show Kosov scamming Iriadu.
Exactly.
Awesome. Absolutely.
I mean,
amazing.
moving from Peter Jackson to like, speaking of High Republic, Acolyte trailer dropped while we were gone.
A new one.
A new one, but now since it's, I mean, we're a month out. No, we're less than a month out. We're like 3 weeks out, guys.
That's
3 or 4 weeks.
That's
3
wild.
weeks
3
out.
weeks.
Yeah, 3 weeks out.
3 weeks out until we don't have free time.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be great. I love it. I've been looking forward to this since I moved. Like I've
Be
been
good.
getting things
Yeah,
together. But
I'm excited for
no,
the Acolyte.
I'm
sorry, the Wokalite.
Oh my god.
Like going through that trailer and just seeing so many people like it hit like 5 million views on YouTube like in less than I think a day and a half maybe. Like there is a ton of hype around this.
Yes.
And I
think
cannot wait.
I think it's one of the most anticipated Star Wars projects. And I think you have like the fandom menace that's like going after it because like the reasons they always go after stuff. But like I know people who have seen that and like they're just excited to get a dark side lightsaber story. Like that's what they're excited about. The one thing that I could see happening is that I think that every Star Wars show has like surprised us in a way. Like Obi-Wan being so much about Leia, like no one saw that coming.
Yeah.
And then, I think, Andor having so many different arcs and like taking it so many different places, like, oh, this is just going to be Cassian and the rebellion. And it's like, no, like Cassian goes to like torture jail. Like
it's some of the best writing in Star Wars.
Yeah, but that's not what they, that's not what we were expecting. And I could see this, like, I mean, just the AMC trailer with Carrie-Anne Moss basically recreating the Matrix in the Acolyte, like that alone has me I was already interested, but it makes me beyond interested to see this.
Also, because for context, we were watching this in the hotel room while we were in Anaheim. The moment that it made everyone freak out in the trailer was the final like second where you see the masked character and it just cuts to black. Like everyone was like trying to pause frame by frame to see what it looked like.
So I got a theory.
Okay.
Come on, give me your Star Wars theory. I want to hear your Star Wars theory.
I think if you look at the masked character, I could be completely wrong, but I think it has something to do with the first Knight of Ren. I think this is kind of a origin to the Knights of Ren. Because remember, to become a Ren, you have to defeat the previous Ren. Maybe this is the first place of it. Maybe this is what kind of like is taking place. Like it's a step down from a Sith. A Ren isn't a Sith. We've known this. We've learned this in canon. I think this could be an origin story for the Rens, but also it's. I think another theory of mine Well, the first one is, I think that's the most plausible, to be honest, actually.
Or maybe this is Plagueis's like
Shut up. Shut up. Shut up. They show
the
that
timeline-
fucking they
the
show that
timeline-
moon. I will fucking cry. I will cry. Oh, I love Plagueis.
I thought it
People are
was
gonna
like inspirations for like not like because with the way that Star Wars has gone lately, they kind of differentiate like the Sith and acolytes that they've been doing helmeted characters. So I thought it was kind of like the setup for like Palpatine's inspiration for the Inquisitorius.
Yeah, I mean, the mask looks very menacing. I mean, that's
Yeah, it's got
I've seen
fucking
so many
teeth on it,
pictures of
dude.
Yeah, it's got
That's
teethers.
so crazy.
But no, after seeing the Phantom Menace and seeing the exclusive look to the Acolyte, it looks really good. And and when she was fighting the assassin with just her hands in the Force, I was like, oh my god, that
just
is
like her and the assassin jumping up the rails and just like the feet sliding back, like it is just like cut and paste from the Matrix, and I love it.
yeah. And then her jumping out of nowhere, and being like, but I'll just still keep doing this.
Also, it's like the most Jedi thing ever. Like for her, like last second to pull, because she doesn't pull out that saber till the
Yeah.
very, very
That
last
you
second.
see it, and she's like deliberately not using it. Like,
Yeah.
I think that's incredible.
The
No,
Jedi's power is the Force. We
It's
see
so
this with Ezra in Ahsoka,
yeah.
and you see this with a lot of Jedi that aren't provoked by lightsaber.
You know what characters also did that very similarly? That also came out very recently. Tales of the Empire.
Hey.
Yeah, Barris.
So, all right. Do we want to talk Elsbeth first, and then
Yeah, we can talk
Barris, or
Elsbeth.
how do we- Like, honestly, I like my whole experience with Tales of the Empire was like me and V stayed up. Everybody else went to bed because V's crazy. She literally sat from here to like if you zoomed in on me, she's like this during the Elsbeth ones, because she ended up cosplaying Elsbeth. She's been planning on doing Morgan Elsbeth ever since the Mandalorian. Well, obviously Mandalorian, and then
Ahsoka.
Ahsoka.
Mhm.
So I think there were some interesting things that they did. I'm not gonna say they weren't needed, because that's definitely not true. I just think they could have. I don't know. I don't really know how I feel about Elsbeth. Like it's an interesting story.
I think because Bale and I were talking about this after, because similar setting, except there were a lot more of us at Anaheim. There was like 20 of us in a hotel room surrounded by a TV watching this. We were talking about this afterwards, while we were going to bed. Like Bale and I were kind of agreeing that the Morgan episodes feel very disjointed. Like the Barris episodes feel like one story. Like they all kind of go into each other. The Morgan episodes feel like three very different stories. Like the first one's in the Clone Wars of like how she gets attacked. The second one is, she suddenly has, she's suddenly the mistress, and now she has all this, and how she's working with the Empire. And then the third one's in the New Republic, so it just doesn't really flow.
I get.
There's a lot
I
of time jumps.
there's time jumps, but they all cohesively tell one story.
Yep.
Like if you go ahead, Chase.
Yeah, I really liked Morgan's. Like I liked both. I think all 6 Tales of the Empire were way better than Tales of the Jedi.
Facts.
I thought just overall, I think it looked better. I think it told better stories. I think what was so interesting about Morgan's was, it didn't have time jumps; it had era jumps.
Yeah.
And I think we've never really gotten that. Like we've gotten like a flashback or a flash forward, between eras, but this was the Republic, the Empire to the New Republic. And it was a cohesive story. It was essentially the progression of Morgan Elsbeth, why she started the way she was and how she got there. And I think with Star Wars, we often get, how do we get one person from one side to the other? We see this with Ben Solo. We see this with Anakin Skywalker. We see him go from one side to the other, back to the other. We see this with Tam. And then we see this with Barris. Like these, like, how do we flip sides? She went from, I hate all of this, I want it all to burn, to I am going to continue to let everything burn. And she gets justification for everything. It doesn't mean that she's right, but she has a justification for everything.
Yeah.
And I think that's what each episode shows the justification of her doing what she does in the first episode is because of Grievous. And also, hello, we finally got Clone Wars 2003 Grievous back.
Yeah, agreed.
Like,
Yeah,
thank you.
that's a big thing.
Thank
yeah.
you. He was
Yeah.
incredible. Like the Grievous moments in the first episode were incredible.
Mhm.
Yeah, when he said wipe them out, all of them,
Yeah,
harkening back to what Palpatine said in The Phantom Menace.
Also, I love
That was
like
cool.
the best part I felt about Grievous was not even Grievous himself. I thought like the way that they used Grievous is kind of like PTSD for Morgan. Like when she's sitting at the campfire and she's just hearing Grievous's laughter in the back of her head as she's just trying to go to sleep. Like that shit was like, oh fuck.
Yeah, like Grievous has had his problems in canon since his inception, and this made him a villain. I think this made him a true villain. But in the second episode, and this, I thought the second episode to me was the most interesting, because of the TIE Defender stuff and how it does tie
Yes.
back to it connects her to Thrawn, how we got in Ahsoka. And I think what's so interesting is Thrawn's not an engineer, he's not a mechanic.
Uh-huh.
So his
Yep.
TIE Defender had to come from somewhere, and having it come from Elsbeth is very interesting. And also just showing that like she went, the Republic didn't help her. They didn't help Dathomir. They didn't care about Dathomir. The Separatists turned on them, so they didn't have anything. So she went to the New Galactic Empire, and she was like, I have something that will benefit your war effort. The TIE Defender will keep your pilots from dying. We're going to put shields on there. We're going to put a hyperdrive on there. This is going to be an incredible craft for your pilots to dominate this rebellion that is coming against you. And they say, oh, that's a great idea. We're not doing it, but we're stealing everything from you. And like to her face, we're stealing everything from you. And then having it basically proven that she can't trust anyone, like especially any government, and then coming back to the New Republic and basically saying, one of your villagers, like, you were a terrible person to this village, and then you're going to have someone from your village try and come back as the New Republic and take over this township you've been ruling over. And there's no discussion. They're just saying they're doing it.
Yeah,
She's like,
that's crazy.
It's like everyone only proves Morgan's point. And while she's getting the wrong people to prove that point, it's just justifying her. And I think that's what's so interesting. And I think it's what Resistance did really well with Tam, was showing you like people don't join the First Order because they're evil. There's a reason they do it. And this was the reason that Morgan has become evil. This is the reason she didn't follow the path of Merrin. Merrin had different people on her journey that helped her realize, like, I don't have to wallow on Dathomir and like brood in the dark side. Morgan didn't have that, and so she just continued down that path because no one let her go up, and we're just seeing it go down and down and down and down until we get to Ahsoka. So I loved Tales of the Empire, of just this, like, yes, this person is evil and has a reason to be evil.
Yeah.
Also, the way that like if like Mando season 2's episode of Ahsoka just hits different now, because you're just like, oh, this is why this force is just completely just destroyed.
Well,
why everyone's just scared for their lives.
Well, and it also explains why Bo-Katan knows where Ahsoka is. Like, Bo-Katan got that information. Like, I don't know. It's kind of vague, though. It's like, oh, it's a distress signal. Like, I feel like Bo-Katan's like, oh, it's a distress signal. And then I feel like, I don't know if she would really look into it, but it makes sense because you have to have that setup where, well, why did Ahsoka go there? Because Bo-Katan told her. She tells Din where Ahsoka is, and like that's that connection all the way through. I thought that was nice.
But like the Barris stories, was interesting because I was looking at a lot of like of people's reviews on Barris's story and how everyone wanted Vader to kill Barris, and I'm like, they're on the same side now. Why would he have any animosity towards her?
So, as being one that kind of wanted Vader to because you put the Clone Wars into perspective, but then
Anakin
again,
did what
like,
she did, but worse.
No, I know, but like the thing is that you are right, Char, but you're right for. I think you're missing that Vader isn't gonna kill Barris because he doesn't give a shit.
Exactly.
And the other interesting thing is that in this time period during the Barris Offee stuff, it's literally like the first episode, they're building the Inquisitorius, which by timeline standards is during the 2017 run of Vader, the Vader comic. And I liked seeing Vader for 5 seconds. My problem with Vader being put in the trailer is like, okay, and this is where I as a fan need to own up. I looked at that and I thought, ooh, Vader could be a big part of it. And I kind of wanted that to happen, and when it didn't happen, I was kind of like, meh. But watching it more and more often, the way that story is told didn't need Vader.
Barriss also doesn't have that much of a relationship with Anakin. Like,
no,
like she has a relationship with Ahsoka, and obviously she knows who Anakin is, and she's communicating. You know, she talks to Anakin in the Clone Wars, but like they're not close.
No.
Like I like the nod of her looking up at Vader. Like you get the feeling that's Anakin. I know that's Anakin. Like, you know, that's that nod. And for me, her looking up and seeing that is maybe like that first inkling that like Anakin is leading this. Like, what is going on?
Yeah.
Like, this isn't right. And we see it like the first episode. I think does such a good job of setting up Barriss to be the Inquisitor, and like she's just gonna like wreak havoc on the galaxy. And then that second episode when they see the Jedi on the hill, like she's like. And you can kind of like understand, like, why don't we just bring him back and have him help us fight other Jedi? And it's just like, no. The Force Sister wants them dead. And she's like, what? No.
Also, like the fact that we get one of the most, I would say, one of the darkest scenes in Star Wars in that episode with the Force Sister just massacring the entire village for literally no reason at all.
Yeah. Way to go, guys! Great call.
Yeah. I really liked Barriss' story, and I think it's ending.
I don't think it is.
No,
I think she's still alive.
Oh,
she's alive.
No, I think she's alive too. I think the ending of just the last episode in general. I think it was super well shot. I think seeing Barriss as a healer, you know, like going kind of like the opposite of Morgan, how it's just that path down, is that she, like, more than I think any other character in Star Wars, made a complete 180, like polar opposite turn from bombing Coruscant to becoming a healer. Like, that is like an awesome story. And her getting stabbed by Lynn, and then Lynn helping her out of that cave. Like, it's just, you get two redemption arcs in one, and it's like, man, it is a buy one get one free if I've ever seen it. It's great.
But it's like, oh, sorry, I'll let Char go.
Oh no, you go ahead. You were already talking.
No, it was basically what we were saying about like the whole when we brought up the topic when I first like segued into it. I felt like it was one of the most pure Jedi acts. Her giving up the Inquisitorius, her giving up her own life force to heal others, giving that child a second chance, even though she knows that the child's probably not going to probably live after this, but like still giving them that family the extra chance to have the life that she could never have. And then her giving that final stand for that child.
Yeah, I mean, she had lost the way, and then she ended up finding the way in the end. You know what I mean?
It's great because I have a non-canon book from Legends. It's literally Jedi healer, and it's Barriss on the cover. So it's seeing that and what happened in Tales of the Empire. I was like, I love this. I love the amount of nods that Filoni has to the EU and the Legends universe.
This is because even the people that we were watching this when they were watching the episodes got really confused at 2 a.m. Filoni only outlined the episodes. He didn't write them. He only did like story outlines for them.
Were different people each. I think almost each episode had different writers and directors.
I thought each, like, Morgan had the same writers, and then Barriss had the same writers. No, they were different writers, but like they had 2 writers for each half.
Dave came up with the concept. He hasn't had his hands on either of these.
Which is, honestly, shout out to my Mando episode. Honestly, I think it works really well with Dave Filoni's writing. I think he's a really good, just like George Lucas, he's a really good ideas man. But when you give his ideas to someone else, it just works better.
I think he's a good writer. I think he's written a lot of really interesting things with Star Wars. I think he's done a lot for Star Wars. I think he's very good at certain things. I don't want to say he's good at one thing. I think he's very good at certain things. And when he needs to step away from that, I think some of that fall apart. And maybe fall apart isn't right. It becomes predictable. Like he becomes a predictable writer. Like there is a style of story he wants to tell. And I think he relies a lot on emotion. Like the only way I can evoke emotion out of you is to take something away from you. Like that's his style, which works. Like we all know it works. We've all had those emotional reactions from Dave Filoni's work. But it's one of those things like once he does it over and over and over again, it loses its luster a little bit. But like he still has put out amazing stuff, and I think the people he's been working with have been doing an incredible job as well. But yeah, I think this was great, and I think this on top of the Bad Batch finale, like we have gotten really good animated Star Wars in just 2 weeks.
I found it funny that you bring up the Bad Batch. That was fun. I know we're going a little bit too fast, so that was literally going to be my segues. Isn't that crazy how like we've been like conditioned by Star Wars animation to here's something, we're gonna rip it out of your hands to now to the Bad Batch where they don't do that at all and they kind of go against the grain a little bit.
Yeah, like I think everyone thought that the Bad Batch were gonna have a happy ending as a joke. Like it's like, yeah, like there's no way everyone's getting out of this alive. I was convinced Crosshair was gonna die. Like from season 2. From season 2, I'm like, this dude's dead. Like this dude may die season 3, episode 15, but he's going to die. And the ending of the Bad Batch it was so refreshing. It was just like, hey, they saved the day. They saved Omega. Omega helped save herself. Like she was instrumental in her own rescue. So there was like, it wasn't just Hunter, Wrecker, and Crosshair and Echo coming to save the day. It was like they couldn't have done that whole escape without Omega. And I think that was so important. And look, Rampart got his, Hemlock got his. The last of the Kaminoans went out on her own terms, which was great. Omega and the Batch got their happy ending on Pabu. Like, I do remember like when we first got Pabu in season 2, I was like, wouldn't it be great if they just stopped here? Like, like they got to a nice beach island resort and we don't have to go anymore. It's like they're just gonna live out their lives here. It's like, nope, we're halfway through season 2. It's not gonna happen. They're gonna have a tidal wave and then the Empire's gonna come, and but then it circles back. It's like, no, they get that happy ending on their beach town that they deserve. And man, it was so refreshing, and I'm relieved that Omega is Force sensitive and has a midichlorian count, and she's not going to do anything with it, and that's her choice. And I think that's great.
Yeah, I mean, the last shot, like the whole thing of like Omega being like, yo, this isn't your fight anymore, it's mine. And the fact that like in the first season they were talking about like Hunter was always kind of on like what's his name? I forgot it last time when we were talking about the finale last week on Duel of the Ranks. Cut LaQuaine literally tells Hunter that he's going to eventually have to let her go and do her own thing. And this is that whole arc starts from the very first 2 episodes all the way through, and we get a entire arc, and him finally letting her go at the end is such it ties that up with a bow perfectly.
Also, I've seen a lot of parallel shots on edits and stuff, and like on Instagram and Twitter of like, because there's a similar shot in the very first episode of like Hunter kneeling down to Omega, and the way the camera is, it's very similar to how it is in the final shot with her saluting him away.
That's crazy.
One thing that was like so like bittersweet to see was like Granddaddy Hunter, like gray hair
Yeah.
Hunter, and you know it hasn't been that long, and
Or
it's
some
just
people called in the watch party Peepaw Hunter.
Peepaw
It's only
Hunter.
been like at this time like 15 years.
I don't think even then, because
Depending,
she's talking
It
about the
has
she's talking about the
but
rebellion.
It has to
so
be.
it's.
I'm assuming A New Hope. That's
I'm
what I'm assuming.
I'm thinking it's
The
after
rebellion
New
has
Hope. I think it's
really.
after A New Hope.
I don't think it's after.
It's within the
Yes.
original trilogy.
Yes,
Yeah,
it's within the
it's-
original
I
trilogy.
think it's
for
sometime
sure.
around where Andor takes place.
No, because no,
no.
it can't. Because I'm assuming she goes to Phoenix Squadron because of her connection with Hera.
Well, Alphabet Squadron.
No,
Either that.
No,
That'd be
she-
interesting.
Chase,
Or
not Alphabet Squadron.
She's not
okay,
good
so
enough
this
for Alphabet Squadron.
all right. Anyway, hold on. Wow, gatekeeping. Squadron couldn't be me. I do think it's after A New Hope, because at that point in time when they were getting like distressed, like when everybody had found out about the Death Star, like more people were starting to join the fight. And at that point, like, let's be real here, before then the rebellion itself didn't have a whole lot of momentum.
Well, okay, so if we look at it, I don't know if we have a date of like the last episode, like, or the date that Tantus was destroyed. I don't know if we have a date on that. But it's
roughly a year after.
Yeah, it's a year.
It's 2 years because remember, to Camino it's a year, and then there's a year time skip to season 2. So it's
And
been
then
we're about
2.5 years after the Clone Wars.
2.5 years after Revenge of the Sith.
So that's
it's
what-
been at least 10 years. I think
Yeah.
it's safe to say, because we still have 19. We have 17 years at the very most to get to A New Hope. And she's 13.
18. She's
Yeah.
13 in season 1.
So she's in her 20s. I think it's safe to say she's in her 20s.
Mhm.
And Hunter is already very old. And
Yeah.
like, and it's just one of those things, like, that's tough. Like, even seeing, like, it's one of those things, like seeing Rex and Wolf and Gregor and Rebels, like, it's kind of cute that they're old, but like seeing Hunter, it's just like, I think that hits harder, and I think that animation style leads it to hit harder.
But then you remember again that Omega's older than them.
Yeah.
Yeah. But also the fact that they confirmed that Crosshair and Echo made it through all this entire time. Like, they didn't leave, they didn't do anything. They just stayed retired on Pabu.
Yeah. And I think that's great. I think all of them learning, and I think they all got, well, I think that Hunter and Crosshair like learned the most lessons of all the Bad Batch, not including Omega. Like, I think the moment of like Crosshair, everyone was expecting Crosshair to get his final shot, and he does. But I think everyone was kind of thinking like it was going to be this whole thing of like, he's going to figure it out, and he's going to, like, it's going to click for him, and he has to lose it to get it back, and he loses his hand, and him putting it on there as just the brace to take out Hemlock. It's like, that's his last shot. It's his final shot. And
but also the moment of that shot of Omega like fighting with Hemlock and Hunter, and he's like, I can't take the shot. Hunter's like, Omega is setting it up for you. Do it.
Yeah.
She wants you to do it.
And the fact that it was like everybody thought that like Omega needed Hunter. No, she, like, Crosshair needed her.
Yeah.
And it was so nice to see.
I think just the way that show ended, like, just felt so good. I think a lot of people have been calling it safe, and I think that's fair, but it also was emotional in really good ways, and it was like, you got happy tears instead of sad tears, because like you're not gonna see, like, yeah, we get that one shot of the Bad Batch, but Hunter's not there. Like, we already lost Tech, and I'm also glad Tech is gone.
Like, yeah, Tech is gone. Yeah, that needed to stay dead.
Like, I think a lot of people were expecting CX2 to be Tech, and I was like, I really hope it's not, and I'm glad it wasn't. I'm glad CX2 was just an altered clone that the Empire was using. But man, the Bad Batch was so good. It like, I'm one of the people that thinks like season 1, 2, and 3 were all really, really good, but season 3 was just spectacular. From episode 1 to the finale of season 3, it was just incredible.
Yeah,
I would put it up there with Roll Season 4 personally.
Yeah, I
For
had
best
such a
season
good
of
time with it.
animation.
yeah. I'd say it's up there.
Yeah, it goes different directions. Like
It does.
it doesn't have the, oh my god, we lost Kanan Jarrus, but it has like a different emotional weight to it.
I mean, losing Tech at the end of season 2, I felt it could have been close to equivalent of.
I don't think it's as close as Kanan because Tech was very rarely the focus of the Bad Batch. Like we got, and I think what was that is in season 2 we got a lot of focus on Tech.
Yeah, the riot racing.
Man, I love Tech taking over the riot racing. That was awesome. Like Tech having fun. That's cool.
Yeah.
And then I think Tech opening up to Omega and being like,
Yeah.
I want you to know that I care about you, and I'm not going to show it the way that Wrecker and Hunter does. But like, it's difficult for me. That's just not the way it works for me. And then losing him. But again, I think it's important that we did lose Tech. We lost some of the Bad Batch along the way. And oh my god, her having the fucking goggles on the ship taking off.
Also, what makes it worse is her doing the tech salute to Hunter as she takes off as that mirror.
Yeah.
I don't think she's going to be a pilot. I think everyone's expecting her to be a pilot. I don't think that's what she's going to do. I think she's going to be like on the ground. She was always on the ground with the Bad Batch.
Do you think she'll be like a medic? Because of her knowledge of working in labs and shit.
No, she's trying to shoot people.
No, be a medic. She'll be like a. I mean, she's obviously a clone, but like she's good with that. I think she could be a medic because that's what she was doing when she was
before she met the Bad Batch.
Yeah,
Haley brought up something that could be interesting. Since we no longer have Gina Carano in Star Wars. If they ever brought Rangers of the New Republic, having Rangers of the New Republic be Omega as a not necessarily the main character, but one of the main characters.
I like that.
Who would play Omega though?
Anyone.
I would say that
someone of Tamara Morrison's descent.
He's got 2 daughters.
Why don't we like do that? Or
oh my god,
we let the
full circle. Holy shit.
The voice will
Tamara Morrison as daughter as Omega would bring everything kind of full circle.
Well, it depends on if
it depends on how. I don't know how old they are. I know he has 2 daughters, and we don't know if they're actors or if they have any interest in it.
So here's the other thing. I think you should just let the voice actress play her. She's of that descent.
But that's the thing. Like Michelle Ang, she's not a very tall person, and you can see how Omega at the time.
Yeah, it's pretty.
At the end of the show,
tall.
It's the same height as Hunter.
Yeah,
no, that's fair.
But height doesn't really matter in
Yes,
Star Wars.
it does. If Vader was 5'2", it would be a different story, you know.
I don't know. Have you seen Spaceballs?
Okay, you got a point there, but it's totally different.
It's funny.
I don't. The Bad Batch was kind of Omega's show at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So will we get another Omega show? I don't think it's impossible in the same way we got an Ahsoka show. I see her being a large supporting character, and I see the Batch being cameos from here on out. Like I could see Tamora Morrison playing Hunter, like at some point, like for sure.
Yeah.
He's not gonna. I don't think we'll get Crosshair or Wrecker or Echo. We'll get Hunter.
Chase, what? I think this is going to be the next animated show. You guys can give your predictions for the next animated show. I think we're all kind of on the same page here. Maybe I'm off. I think, and this is just me, I think we get a story about the Path, animated series about Ventress, Quinlan, helping the Path, and you could get a Barasafi mention, because I'm pretty sure. I don't know whether
She
they're gonna
name drops the path at one point. I forget what Pep was joking about that while watching it. 'cause-
but no, I think that's the next animated series. But I don't know if
But do you think
if
it's more suited for a full series, or because someone suggested a Tales of the Path, which I also think could work as well.
I like that too, but I think it deserves I think it deserves a series.
Tales of the Bounty Hunters.
Yeah, I think Tales of the Rebellion, Tales of the
Is the
Bounty
next one.
Hunters is way more likely.
Because think about
Yep.
it though, if Tales of the Bounty Hunters happens, the odds of us getting an animated Han Solo, Leia,
Well,
it's high.
Well, also with Tales of the Rebellion, you also get a chance of animated Leia too. If they pick Bail Organa.
With Rebellion, sure, but like
I think the next Tales will be Tales of the Bounty Hunters. I think we'll get a Tales of the Sith at some point. My
think they
personal
wanna-
my
for Bounty Hunters,
personal
what do you
thought,
think the two
yeah,
are gonna be?
they'll
What?
do. I don't think they'll do Boba Fett.
No.
I think we'd get Cad Bane as one of them, and I could see.
Rengar?
No, I don't.
I'm trying-
I don't think the Empire roster of bounty hunters will ever get like the expanded universe messed with them, and some of the canon messed with them, and it just like it was never very good. They're just like
Fennec, maybe.
I could
trying to
see
think of a character
Fennec
with-
getting.
No,
I'm trying to find a
I
character.
think we have
With,
too
I'm trying
much
to find
with
like
Fennec.
because it's like we gotta get a character from again. I'm going off Tales of the Jedi, but we gotta get a character that's very strong in their ways and a character that's kind of conflicted in the middle. And I feel like that's kind of the contrast there with Bane and Fennec.
You know what? The one that I could see like bringing bot it would be Dr. Aphra.
Afra would be incredible.
for Tales of the Bounty
Afro
Hunter.
would be good. Afro would be great.
But yeah, it's that's a
Oh
I
my
don't-
god, Chris Stanton. If Chris
Glad
Stanton
Chris
got a
Stanton
story,
getting
but
his own
everyone else that he's
Yeah,
interacting with
baby.
gets the dialogue.
And then like
Yeah.
you can do the whole Morgan thing where it's like in different eras too.
Yeah, I think if you did that, and the one thing about Tales is I think Tales has two really good opportunities. You know, if it continues, is it has an opportunity to bring a lot of EU stuff into canon.
Yep.
Like if they do Tales of the Sith, that is how you talk about Tenebris and Plagueis. I don't think you do that in a live action show. I don't think you do that in a whole animated series. Like that's how you do it. I think that's how you bring in Darth Revan and Darth Bane is in like a Tales of the Sith.
I don't think that's. I think
I
they're
think-
gonna keep Revan for the Old Republic.
Game.
No, I
No,
think you talk about
Old
Revan
Republic
and-
era.
yeah,
Like
You-
they're going to like after
They
Dawn
won't-
of the
I don't-
Jedi.
if the Old Republic remake doesn't come out soon, they will probably mention Darth Revan in one way or another before they start featuring him.
I agree, but I think Bane is more likely. Darth Bane would be more likely just because think about it. Even without the context of Path of Destruction, and all that. Think all the way back to Clone Wars season 6.
Season 5.
We were getting it's Lost Missions. It's the Yoda arc.
Is it?
Yeah,
No.
season 6.
I thought it was 5.
So imagine Mark Hamill coming back to voice Darth Bane.
No.
But
All
like,
right, all right,
Mark
all right,
Hamill
all
as Darth Bane. Don't you
Tales
wouldn't-
of
you
the
wouldn't-
Tales
you wouldn't fuck with
Tales of
that?
the Sith. Tales of the Sith. I think that is one that they're gonna wait on because in my personal opinion, so they're gonna have Rey's movie, they're gonna have Mangold's Dawn of the Jedi movie, and then there's the Mando movie. What they're going to do is they're gonna keep expanding out into the future with Rey stuff. But they're also going to start from the very beginning with Dawn of the Jedi, and from there, that section is going to go closer and closer to because they've already gotten the era. They've already have the eras mapped out. It goes Dawn of the Jedi,
The Old Republic.
Old Republic, High Republic, then obviously
Fall of the Jedi, Reign of the Empire, Rise of the Rebellion.
So I'm thinking they're gonna try. I don't know how many movies or how much content we're gonna get in that time in that Dawn of the Jedi period, but like there's
Not a
about
lot. You'll get
I
a
think-
movie.
you'll get a movie and then like what comic like books
book
and
and a
stuff?
comic.
Probably.
So
I've-
me and shout out to Skipper Rowdy Films. I'm gonna shout out this conversation we had in Discord. I feel like that would be the next initiative would be
Dawn of the
I would
Jedi.
think going 2 initiatives on 2 different fronts. First
Oh, yeah,
one
absolutely,
is
yeah.
Dawn of the Jedi, but you make it a little bit after the movie, so James Mangold can do whatever the fuck he wants. But you make it because you have 19,000
the
years of
movies.
stories to play with. You have a lot of stories to play with.
Wait, did you say after?
Yes, because there's 19,000 years of stories between that to the Old Republic. You have a lot of stories.
Yeah. I was
And
wondering why
then-
you said after. Because
Because again, it's the very beginning, but it's also like kind of letting Mangold do what he wants with the characters. So I'm assuming it's gonna be
absolutely.
more than
I'm
one
totally,
movie.
yeah.
And then
Yeah.
And then the next initiative would be Old Republic alongside the game, but you pace it a little bit either before or after, and you let the games. Because I think the safe bet with the Old Republic is you let the game be the game. You let the common story that's already known be in the game, and then you go afterwards and you start with new characters. Like, hey, we've done the story of Revan, we've done the story of Bane, we've done the story of this, we've done this, we've done that. Let's do some new Jedi. Let's do that. Let's focus on this from this perspective.
But they're already hitting that with High Republic already.
Yeah, the trick with the Old Republic is like it's not much different.
Because it's because you also get stuff like you get the Tar Vizsla angle with the Mandalorian Wars, because that is a new thing in canon. Like you have new
That'll be
angles to
something
go
that
about
Dave probably will touch on if I had to imagine.
So it's like there's different ways to go about it. Like you can definitely go at a different angle than Legends.
The thing about the Old Republic was it was Star Wars with like without the leash, right?
Yes.
And it wasn't like when you go to Dawn of the Empire or Dawn of the Jedi, you take away lightsabers, you take away light speed travel, and you make it more of a medieval style story. The Old Republic it's 3,000 years before, and you still have hyperspace, you still have blasters, you still have jetpacks, you have everything that you have in Star Wars. Like technologically, there's little to no difference between what we have now and what we had then. And the characters were what made that, because it was like, how do we make a story that's not tied to Luke Skywalker or Anakin Skywalker? Yep. And if you say, let's do all new characters, just do it in the story, in the timeline that everyone knows. Whereas in the Old Republic, it was like, you have this whole, like from Revan to the Exile to Bane to Satele and to
Malik.
And Malik and Vitiate. Like there is a whole new story there. And it's like one of those things, like imagine if every single Star Wars thing that Disney has done never mentioned Luke Skywalker. Like no one would care anymore. So I think they're going to if they do the Old Republic, they're going to have to rely on expanded universe stuff, because the High Republic is let's just make new characters, because no one has characters in that timeline, and it's like, okay, we have to tie it to Yoda basically.
But like I was thinking more along the lines of like how they do Yoda in the High Republic, where it's like, hey, we know what's going on generally, they're just doing shit in the background, this is what these characters are doing while that stuff is happening.
So I understand where you're going with the game, but again, if you're gonna give them a whole era, you might as well put these characters on screen.
If you don't put those characters on screen, you might as well just put it in the regular era. Like
you might as well just get like
you're just making more Star Wars, and it's and I think not that I think people need to play or that Disney needs to play into it, but like the Old Republic has a fan base, like, and I'm part of that fan base, and like I would personally be a little disappointed. I'd be like, why didn't you, like, you could have written this any other time. Like if it's a story about dude lightsaber man and girl gunslinger woman, like you could put that anywhere. Like why put it in the Old Republic?
Yeah.
Like, if you establish it with new fans that are going to watch live action TV shows, sure. But like, I think this is the one opportunity where they can lean into the expanded universe and say, this is the story of Darth Revan. This is the story of Darth Bane. This is the story of Canderous Ordo. Yeah. This is the story of HK-47. Like, and they can change it. And I think that would be the coolest part. Is it's like,
I think so too.
There are bad parts, from Drew Karpyshyn that he should have not written. Like, that Revan book should have never existed. It is bad.
That's my whole point, though. That was my whole argument. It's like, I don't want them to be shackled by what the previous writers did. Like, I want them to kind of break free of that.
Drew Karpyshyn is incredible at writing open-ended stories where he is not at the helm of the ship. Like, Knights of the Republic 1 and 2 are incredible stories because they make being good and evil make sense in the world. And I think Mass Effect 1 is another like game where, yes, the evil side of it doesn't make a lot of sense, but what you can and cannot do and the consequences of what you do and do not do in Mass Effect are incredible. Like, Mass Effect, for all intents and purposes, is Knights of the Old Republic 3. But it's just one of those things, like, his style of writing is great for open-ended. Like, he has these awesome starting points that can go in really cool places. But when we have to basically have a show that says, no, this is how it happened, his storytelling won't work. And the story of Revan, you know, being like, hey, the Jedi mind wiped this Sith Lord and then tried to retrain them. Like, that's a great story. We need to know where he goes, because either he takes control of the galaxy for a little bit or he goes into seclusion as a Jedi, you know. And it's like,
right. Yeah. And I think that story, I think like, for the most part, like, I think the Revan stuff, I think the first game will basically just be left. I think I am in the mindset. I used to be thinking keeping it Legends, but I flipped to let's do the Final Fantasy VII remake. Let's pull a Final Fantasy VII remake. Let's adapt the story into the current canon. You don't have to change much, but you can still make some changes to make it work.
Yeah.
And I think that story, I think if you put it on that type of scale as Final Fantasy VII Rebirth or the remake, it will do so goddamn well.
Yep. I think that, you know, they have the Old Republic MMO has an incredible amount of stories that it tells. And I think this is the opportunity to give the fanboys what they want and give them the Old Republic trailers in live action and these really cool.
Satisfied.
Oh, they're fun. They're fun.
Yeah.
Like, when you watch the Old Republic trailers, and it's my favorite thing is, like, when people talk about the Old Republic trailers and how good they are, I'm like, y'all played the game, right? No, it's something like that. Don't know if you just press 1, 2, 3, 4 to attacks, right? You know, it's like, it's a worse version of WoW, right? It's cool, but it's not like that. But like, those cinematics are great. Like, I mean, when that game was coming out, those trailers were great. Every expansion they did with those trailers, like, they're awesome. There's no getting around it. Like, they're hype. It's awesome. And I think this is an opportunity to, like, I think you can take the style of those trailers and tell really good stories around them. And I think, like, Disney obviously has the budget to be like, look, this is the Old Republic. And the same reins that Drew Karpyshyn was given by LucasArts was like, you get to do whatever you want. You know, it's like, because you're 3,000 years in the past.
Just don't fuck up.
But also,
he did such a good job. And like, people love Knights of the Old Republic for a very good reason, because they're very good stories. And I think you have that of, like, we can do whatever we want with these stories. You know, we no longer are. We have a built-in fan base. We no longer have to talk about Luke Skywalker. We're kind of at the reins of, like, we should talk about Darth Revan and we should talk about HK-47. Like, that's basically it.
Yeah, one of the things I'm also excited for is, like, how they took technology in the High Republic to the prequel era. I want to see what they do with the how do we get from the High Republic to the Old Republic. Like, how, like, I want to see, like, how the technology kind of progresses.
Yeah, because even in the High Republic, they're still using buoys. They're using buoys in hyperspace. It's not like it is in the original trilogy.
The one thing I'd like to see, and we could see it in Dawn of the Jedi, if you like read like the Dawn of the Jedi book, which I guess I'm the only person in the world that liked that book, but okay. The idea of long-term space travel, like kind of more like naval navigation, of like, hey, we're on Tython and we need to get to a planet that's like 3 planets away. It's going to take a month. Like, I think having one thing that you could change in the Old Republic that wasn't in there would be like, hey, we need to get from Tatooine to Manon, and it's going to take 3 months.
3 years.
I think that's a lot. I think, like, it's just one of those things, like, we like saying, "Hey, we got a distress beacon from Kashyyyk, and we're on Coruscant. Like,
Yeah.
what do you want us to do?" Like,
Yeah.
And also the we can also tie it into what's going on in the current canon. Maybe we can get like a Santeca or maybe in there in the story of like and like the first like obviously this would be more Dawn of the Jedi than Old Republic, but like
So-
the introduction of hyperspace
Mhm.
travel with the Force.
Well, that
Because you get that
and
mentioned in the High
also,
Republic.
well, and also you have to remember the Purgle exists, and they're a very big part of that. I think that
or hear me out. You could
here we
get
go.
someone on a pterodactyl to fly from the planet to the planet's moon. That would be cool. I think that would be really cool if they did that. And
Are you
I
being
think it should be. I
facetious
think
right
it should
now?
be shot for shot, like Leia in the Last Jedi. But like, imagine if Leia were on a pterodactyl and flew to the moon.
This is the most chase coded thing I've ever heard in my life.
Oh my God.
Man, those 3 books are something else. The first book is the angstiest thing. I remember I reread it, I think like 2 years ago. And I was like, this is the angstiest thing I've ever read. It's great.
That's hilarious.
But yeah, there's so much you can do with it, but I do think they need to lean into the characters that were established. I think that's what made the Old Republic so special was the characters. And the companions you had. It was the friends you had along the way.
So I
Wow.
mean, are we good to cut off here, or is there more to talk about?
I feel like we kind of gone full circle.
Yeah.
I mean, we got Bernie Weaver, but that's like okay, cool. She's Mando and Grogu, or talks to me and Mando and Grogu.
What if it's
okay.
what if she's Mando's mommy?
No,
We already
she'd be
seen Din's mama.
what's her face's mom?
Oh, Bo-Katan's?
No.
No.
Oh no,
Pella-
she's dead.
Pella, what's her face? The girl that dates the Jawa, the mechanic.
Pelimato.
Pelimato.
Pelly.
Her mom. She'd be
That's
perfect as her
hilarious.
mom.
It would be. It would be.
But also, Lohi
That's
said
so
Din's mother,
crazy.
even though we've seen her on screen. Forget
Yes,
season
I
1,
think
you
so.
fake man.
I don't remember. Season 1's a blur, but no.
Damn,
But that's gonna be.
forgetting one of the best seasons in Star Wars. Damn.
Well, I
Mid-
mean,
the mid DeLorean.
I mean, if we just want to throw it out there, George Lucas's favorite project is Obi-Wan Kenobi. So
like that.
you
Wow.
guys.
Wow. Like it really matters.
as long as it's not Book of Boba Fett. But anyway,
Hey.
that
Hey,
Yeah.
that show's really good. That show's really good.
Oh God, Luke, you're
let's
outnumbered now.
Let's stop. Anyway,
I'm sorry. Which did Obi-Wan ride a Rancor in his show?
No, I don't think so.
No,
Yeah,
he-
dude, that's so lame that he didn't
Let me-
do that.
Let me tell you this: the events that happened on Tatooine and Obi-Wan, not as good as what happened. In
Oh
Boba
my god,
Fett.
whatever. Who cares?
Yeah,
Chase.
he cut up meat and like cried in a cave. That's what he had. That's what he did. Boba Fett rode a fucking Rancor. You trying to tell me Book of Boba Fett wasn't good?
Yes,
Black
that's exactly
Chrysanthemum
right.
ripped the motherfucker's arms off.
That's the clip. All right, Chase. Where can the good people follow you on the social medias?
You could find me on TikTok at Forward Into the Black. And now that I have good internet here in Seattle, Washington, I'm going to start streaming soon once my desk arrives. But we're waiting on UPS for that one.
And now as a 4th member.
You can find
Officially.
me every Thursday.
We tried
It's
to release
Thursday. You know what that
You know
Oh,
what
means.
that means. All right.
It's
Anyway.
time for another episode of the
Anyway,
Pod
we've
Ones
beaten that. We've
podcast.
beaten that to a fucking poll. But anyway, there goes Chase. Chase just said that he had good internet, and then it cut out.
Oh,
Love
really? Love it.
Rip.
Well.
I'll have to
Hereth,
call
where can people
Xfinity.
follow you?
Well, as the other fellow Washingtonian of the Pod Ones podcast, you can find me at Hereth Productions on TikTok and Instagram, Hereth_edits on Twitter, and of course, like Chase said, you can find me here on the Pod Ones podcast.
And Char J, where can the good people follow you on the social medias?
Good people, you can find me on TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram at CharJ, as not spelled right here. And you can find me here at the Pod Ones podcast next month as we have our Hot D reactions. And are we going to be also having Acolyte reactions? Or
Yes, Acolyte reactions as well.
Okay.
Yes.
So
Yep,
check us out for
yep.
that next month. But yeah, you can find me here.
You can find me at Jedi Master Eggs on all social media, and you can follow the Pod Ones on all social medias. We'll be releasing more content, doing streams, reactions will be happening, and just some more fun that we've got for the summer. So the summer's finally here. We'll talk about other things, but with that, like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell for notifications so you never miss any of our content, by the way. And may the force be with you
Always.
Always.
Always.